November 24th edition of Market Trends Podcast. Today we have the September jobs report, Matt. What will the Fed do in response? They meet at the end of December. We discussed that. Also, the NAR had a big meeting. They have kept more agents than they thought. And then finally, Cook County releases a new price tracker. Coming right at you, Market Trends. Well, hello, this is the People Not Titles podcast. This is our Market Trends edition. I'm here with my partner, Matt Lombardi, and we are here November 24th, Thanksgiving week, Matt.
Thanksgiving. We're grateful for you guys, for your support, watching, viewing, commenting.
Yes.
And we love bringing you the news, so we're thankful for you. And Steve, I'm thankful for you.
Well, thanks, Matt. I appreciate that. And listen, if the ball game gets boring, Matt, on Thursday, just turn on a Market Trends podcast and let the whole family enjoy.
I mean, we have so many Market Trends episodes now, but the whole library of People Not Titled podcasts with wonderful interviews, attorneys, realtors, business leaders. You're right. Why watch football?
Right.
Why talk to your family?
Right.
Listen and
watch Market Trends. Okay, fantastic. Matt, we have the September jobs report released last week. Some exciting news, Matt. Let's talk about it.
So due to the government shutdown, a lot of news and data were delayed or just thrown away. And so last week, finally, the September jobs report came out. And what came out was some positive news, which was delayed. You know, the news was delayed by the shutdown, but it shows 119,000 plus jobs have been added, which beat expectations. We always love beating expectations. But conversely, unemployment rose a little bit to 4.4%, which is higher than forecasted. And the wage growth was modest at just 0.2% month over month. So those are the three key takeaways from the September jobs report.
Matt, and my prediction is that these will not be adjusted down because I know that weak jobs would indicate potentially a further rate cut. And they would not want to put a better foot forward out there that isn't there. But that's just my prediction. Matt, what is going to be the impact on interest rates for
this? The biggest impact is with the news we just shared.
Yes.
Is the strong job gains may make for a third rate cut less likely to happen. So we've been talking about the last few weeks, and it seems like a 50-50 odds of will the Fed cut rates one more time before the end of the year, or will they not? So the hawks, inflation hawks, argue that solid payrolls and nearly 4% annual wage growth mean the Fed should hold off on cutting rates. And then you have the other side, conversely, the doves, pointing to rising unemployment rate creeping towards 4.5% is a warning sign, and that should lower rates. So we'll see who wins out. There's always the fight and the battle, and too late Powell and the new Fed governors and everything that's happening there. I don't know. I don't have a prediction for a rate cut or not this month.
Matt,
put you on the spot.
Yes. So Matt, what I will also, so number one, I'm going to predict a cut. And number two, Matt, typically when you see these Fed rate cuts, the mortgage, because it's so expected and the odds are in one way, shape or form or another in favor of or against, that the mortgage rates typically build this in, but I don't think they're going to bake it in. So my prediction is lower rate, a rate cut, and then a little dip in mortgage rates right before the end of the year.
I like that.
Okay.
That's a happy holiday season for
holiday season,
property
Matt.
Buyers out there.
Absolutely, Matt. But there are data gaps due to the shutdown. Let's talk about that.
So there's some questions and ambiguity here, and I don't have the answers. But the Bureau of Labor and Statistics is not going to release an October jobs report at all. Okay. They've already announced it. There is a jobs report, but they're not for the month of October, but no one's going to ever see it.
The person who counts the jobs was off, and so we're not going to have it, Matt.
Well, it just makes it challenging because the Fed's going to next meet on December 9th and 10th. And so once again, they're not going to have the latest jobs report.
It's going to come out mid-December, right?
And so they're going to have to rely on the private data that I believe they've been using the last month and a half, 2 months for their records. But that's just one thing. And then the November jobs data is delayed, but will be released on December 16th.
Okay, Matt. So this is going to be a cliffhanger. and we will see. Matt, how do you think this is going to impact the real estate market and mortgage rates?
So once again, I think you gave your prediction.
I did.
It's so hard. I'm not a gambler. I'm
Yeah.
not an odds guy, so it's 50-50. I'm not sure. I'm not sure that there will be a rate cut this year. So I'm going to be on the opposite side of you, Steve,
I
saying
like that.
rates are going to
Let's do a dollar bet, because you've
dollar
already
bet.
lost
Yeah,
a
I was saying
dollar to me.
I always lose the bets
Yeah.
that we have.
Okay.
And then rates are still
Low.
for this time. We're at the lowest time rates for the year. We're going to go over a little market mortgage rate snapshot later. But yeah, I mean, I think people. I mean, we see the refis coming in. We see people interested in getting the mortgage applications. It's just the inventory and pulling the trigger. And for those of you that are looking for properties out there, November and December are a great time to look because there's less competition.
Right, and prices typically go down as the weather gets colder. Matt, we have news and insights into the NAR finances and their future. Let's talk about the NAR financial snapshot.
So last week we talked about that NAR had their annual meeting, governance meetings, as well as conference and convention in Houston. It's their major event. They make a lot of news and announcements. And some of the stuff that we didn't capture last week came out after our recording that are very important to our public out there that need to hear what's happening.
That's why we do this weekly, Matt.
Right. And so first of all, NAR gave a little financial snapshot of, which they don't do a lot. So membership losses did not materialize as expected, and it helped stabilize their revenue. NAR is keeping dues flat for 2026 while shifting funds internally to cover their settlement obligation. So those are a couple big things, and we talked about some of these last week. But the cost cutting and cash position, which I think is interesting, is NAR plans to cut expenses by $41 million next year. I didn't know they had $41 million to cut or even have. So
Yeah.
they have a big budget, and I don't know what specifically they're going to cut. As I was thinking of the NAR budget, what are the big things? Like meetings and events are big buckets of expenses. So I don't know if that means that
Compensation, Matt.
Well, compensation, they've slashed and burned lots of
There might be
people.
more heads rolling, Matt.
Could be. So NAR's cash reserve dropped from about $319 million to $122 million after they paid their $197 million settlement
So
payment.
things are getting tight around there, right? Is that what you're saying, Matt?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And as of September 30th, so at the end of the third quarter of this year, NAR had $267 million in marketable securities and just over $62 million in cash. Sounds pretty good to me.
Yeah.
And depending on cash flow, NAR may need to liquidate assets soon to start paying future obligations, which include their next major settlement payment is in February of 2026, which is right around the corner, and they will be paying $72 million.
Wow.
Cut a check for that. So yeah.
Matt, everyone, I think every broker would sit there and think that they were the only ones that felt pain with the loss of the settlement and the checks they had to write out. But clearly here, the NAR has been one of the biggest recipients of said pain, and they are making the cuts and they are taking the steps necessary to try to rebuild their financial coffers as well as reestablish their reputation.
And I haven't had the opportunities to speak with people I know that were at the NAR meetings last week. And hopefully Steve and I can get some firsthand insights from people who attended there. I've heard some anecdotal stuff and seen online, like the business governance portion of the meetings were great. Obviously the news that have come out of the PR machine have all been positive. People who were in attendance there said this is good. We're very positive of the changes that have been made. And so I think a lot of members and high-profile members are seeing that and feeling that.
Yeah.
Conversely, I've also heard how the Trade Expo was which was a major component of this event, has just gone to hell in a handbasket, and it's not what it was. Slim pickings, not the same experience that it was. But you guys that were in attendance, you could share your comments with us.
Man, and I think the tone is less celebratory, less, hey, let's just get together, kumbaya, don't ask where the money goes, don't ask what we're doing with it, to we are now serious, we're going to provide value, this is more business-like, And as people get options, we understand they may not choose us and we want them to choose us.
Yes. And so moving forward with some other news out of the NAR finances in their future, we talked about some of these last week. Dues are going to remain at $156 for next year. There's also a special advertising assessment of $45, so that's separate from the dues payment. And out of that $45, $35 of that is going to go help cover operating expenses.
Okay, so not a lot of advertising bang there.
No, so $10 per member in advertising, and that's probably a cutback that they're making to save on money. And $55 of the $156 of dues is allocated for their lobbying efforts.
And we said they're the strongest lobbyer, Matt. They have the biggest political action. I believe that is of real value.
And there's also something called the Realtors Political Action Committee, where they do major fundraising, separate and distinct from.
We talked about that last week.
We did, and so that's a huge money-making
It's like
machine.
80% funded, something like that.
Correct.
Matt, what are the membership trends? They expected to lose, but it seems like they're not.
So for this year, 2025, they expected to lose at least 100,000 members, and instead they kept it up to almost 1.5 million members, which really helped with their budgeted amount, which was well above their 900,000 above their $1.4 million budgeted amount.
Matt, I think that is more an indicator of the agents that hung into the business as opposed to people choosing the NAR, but they were the benefactor of people that decided, I'm going to renew my license, I am going to pay my dues, I am going to stay in the game.
And we've talked about, and we're going to say this, for 2026, NAR is budgeted 1.2 million members for their budgeting purposes.
Yes.
I feel that's going to be above that.
Okay.
And I feel that's a false number that they're using just to keep things lower. And when they hit 1.3,
a little bit of a slush fund.
They're going to have, hey, we made extra millions of dollars. That's just my own take. I don't think the drop-off of realtor memberships is going to be as bad as maybe we anticipated up front. But there will be some bleeding of members. There will not be the same 1.49, 1.5 million members next year.
Matt and I wonder if their prediction of the 14% uptick in business next year might have some agents saying, you know what, I'm going to stick in for 2026. I'm going to see if I can't, after I've endured the dry times of 24 and 25, which is basically flat and lowest point of the market, can I get my hands on some of that additional real estate commission that is going to occur in 2026.
Yes.
Okay, Matt, new Cook County price tracker launched. This is interesting and very relevant to everyone in Chicago.
It is, and I thought this was a pretty cool news story. There's, I think, a lot of people who don't like our Cook County assessor, Fritz Kagi. He took over for Jesse Barrios, and those of us that have been around, Jesse was more of the old school regime where there was a lot of loopholes and things. People were getting their taxes taken care of.
Yes.
And Kagi ran on a reform ticket and saying, I am going to make the taxation in Cook County more fair and equitable, which unfortunately I think he did.
Yeah.
But there's the commercial property owners, there's the residential property owners, and everybody's getting hit, it seems like.
Yes.
So anyway, I'm not going to pontificate about him and what people feel about him. But this news story is there is a new price tracker that is for all of Cook County suburbs as well as the 77 neighborhoods in Chicago. And it's to help homeowners understand their assessments, comparable comps, and research neighborhoods for affordability. And it integrates, there's some other tools as part of this price tracker, something called the Home Value Report, and then comparable property lookup tool. And I actually did look up these things this
And how did you feel like the tool worked, Matt?
So how I feel is don't compare it to Zillow, Realtor.com, Homes.com. It is not a home search tool. It is literally for, I think, residents and or people looking to move into a certain neighborhood where you can see, and the data is from 2020 to 2024 thus far. So you could see all the property transactions that have taken place in specific neighborhoods or suburbs. So that'll give you a good snapshot of what things are selling for. It'll give other ancillary information, days on market. But then for taxation purposes, if you are a property owner in Chicago and or the Cook County area, it will give you comparable properties, and actually it showed me, which I've never seen before, the properties used to compare my home when they're assessing it for tax purposes against other homes in my neighborhood.
Matt, my suspicion is there's a lot of appeals going on, probably that the assessor's office is working with, and they're saying some of those are substantial and credible, but there's others that are just appealing for the sake of appealing. And now, before you go into appeal, which doesn't cost you anything typically if you're working with an attorney to do that, because they take a piece of the pie if you save money, I think you're able to look at it and go, okay, do they have my property right? Yeah. That doesn't mean the taxes won't still go up in a crazy manner, but you'll be able to see how are they comparing me, and is this an accurate assessment? And for some, I think they're going to go, okay, I get that. I don't like it, but I do get it. And so is that what you found, Matt, in yours?
So when I looked at the comparable properties used against my residents, it was 2 were super high priced, 2 were lower priced, mine and the other one were sort of mid-tier.
Okay.
So not to read into it, but they're looking, I looked at the comparison.
Yes.
And what they have on paper, and looking at the homes that they compared it against, I got to say it was fairly legit. And and I hate paying more taxes, but I can't disagree with the assessed value that is out there for our home. What I hate is Cook County taxes your building separately from the land.
Yeah.
And so over the years, my building has not gone up, but the land value has gone up, or the land has not gone up, and then so they're getting you either way.
Yeah, Matt, and my feeling is here that the bigger the case they make on this tracker for why you're paying your tax, they're never going to have something that doesn't make sense. They're always going to try to build their case through the AI and algorithm. It now might even behoove you to talk with a real attorney that can understand how to argue these points, look at the properties and whatnot outside of the scope and the arguments that they're making for you to be able to reduce your taxes. So it might create more value as opposed to less for these attorneys.
Yep. And what I'll say, I guess sort of wrapping this up, is it's not a tool to compare and look for properties like Zillow, Homes.com, Realtor.com. But for you realtors out there, this is another tool.
The People Not Titles podcast is brought to you by Land Trust Title Services, your partners for results.
To put in your toolbox to assist clients, to say, hey, I want to move into this neighborhood, and I think this would be a dynamite resource for you to use to really show comparables, real time, even block by block of what's happening, and makes it a little easier for you guys.
So Matt, I'll say words that we didn't think we were going to say on market trends. Kudos to Fritz and his team and the Cook County assessor for at least making this information available and searchable. Matt, let's talk about how it compares to Zillow, Redfin, and Realtor.com.
Yeah, it doesn't. It's a separate platform that is not like part of the home search process. It's more granular data for homeowners to compare and contrast properties.
Good enough, Matt. Matt, let's toggle then into the Kaempf versus Zillow injunction hearing and what went on there, because there's some news that can impact everybody.
Yeah, this is interesting. So last week, real estate news turned to this high-profile courtroom showdown between Kaempf and Zillow. We've been talking a lot about them. So last week, there was an injunction hearing, and the dispute is whether Zillow can continue blocking certain Kaempf listings on its platform, and the lawsuit Kaempf filed back in June. So this is a preliminary hearing. Robert Refkin was deposed and on the stand, and here's some things that I think are interesting that will be impactful moving forward. So number one, the us versus them theme. Robert Refkin framed the conflict as agents and Kaempf, quote unquote, the workers, versus the portals, NAR, and MLSs, the takers. Zillow profits from agents' works. Refkin argued that Zillow monetizes homebuyer clicks without agent involvement, calling it the most expensive click in real estate. That's a good one. And I would say we said this many times over the course of our episodes. Zillow has monetized every part of the transaction and are capturing 80% of the profits these days.
Yes, 80%. They got their hands on 80% of the transactions. They're taking sometimes up to 40% of commissions on these clicks, so it is an expensive click, Matt.
Yeah.
So kudos to Refkin for pointing that out.
Kaempf claims that the MLSs out there and NAR, that they limit agent choice via the mandatory rules and monopolistic control over listings. We're going to see what happens with that. As we reported last week, NAR came out with this whole new revised MLS policy, which puts the burden on local MLSs to take them out of the competitive nature of all these lawsuits. So more to come on that. The three-phased marketing strategy. So Kaempf's strategy that includes the first phase, which isn't truly private. Buyers and agents can access listings through Kaempf offices. But then the Zillow ban impact, Kaempf agents fear suggesting the three-phase marketing effort because listings could be blocked by Zillow. And Refkin says many brokers are similarly intimidated.
Matt, and I think there's something to this on the other side of the coin, which is that most brokers, I think 80%, 8 out of 10, including Anywhere, were for clear cooperation.
Yeah.
So Refkin clearly is trying to still petition, even though he's pivoted with now he's the little guy all of a sudden, although he's almost 30% of the market, that the private listing is part of overall strategy for them to sell the property, and he wants to be able to use the private listing and as well leverage the Zillow platform.
Yep. And so on cross-examination, this is fun, Refkin admitted uncertainty on online market share in the three-phased marketing strategy, questioned on financial harm despite Kaempf's record Q3 earnings, and Zillow's emails indicated early discussions on black box listing challenging Refkin's claim of unfair standards. So I love lawsuits, I love depositions, I love people, he said, she said. What they throw out there in the media is usually different than what comes out in court proceedings, because when you're on the trial and on court, you actually have to tell the truth.
Yes.
As opposed to throwing out the PR machine and saying this, that, and the other. So more to come on this, but this could impact what's happening in our marketplace.
And we're going to keep our violins in the case right now because Kaempf has record earnings and Zillow has had record earnings, even though they're now tangled up in what I would say is a very serious lawsuit for them with these kickback schemes and all that kind of thing. So more to come on that. Matt, let's take a look at the mortgage rate snapshot and then go into some U.S. existing home sales data.
Yeah, so because we're near the end of the month, this is our time where we talk about what's happening in the mortgage market as well as what's happening in the existing home market.
Yes.
So first and foremost, the market mortgage snapshot, it's been pretty flat this month. I mean, it's ticked up ever so slightly from the last time.
An eighth here or an eighth there.
So for a 30-year fix, we're looking at 6.25% on average, and it could be a little lower, could be a little higher, but around that market that rate, which has really driven a lot of refis.
Absolutely.
Those people that are in the 7s and maybe even 8s, they're coming to the table and refinancing at this point in time at 6.25.
They dated the rate, Matt.
They definitely dated the rate, and 15-year fixed is averaging about 5.6% right now. So that's the mortgage snapshot. We'll see what happens as we just discussed with the next rate cut. I don't think there's been really movement one way or another over the last few weeks. So we'll see what happens.
More to come.
And then moving forward with the U.S. existing home sales data. So last week was when everything came out from NAR and the local boards and associations. So on the U.S. marketplace, existing home sales rose just over 1.2% month over month to a seasonally adjusted rate of 4.1 million units.
So flat, Matt.
Flat. Look at a 3-year chart. It is 4 million, 4 million, 4 million. That's how we're going to end up the year. Year over year sales were up just 1.7% compared to October of 2024. Median home sales price in October was $415,200, up just over 2% from a year ago, and that is the 28th consecutive month of year-over-year price gains. Crazy.
Matt, and I believe that this is part of it is what's stirring the conversation about affordability. It's hard to have you're excited about appreciation. At the same token, if you're on the outside looking in, you're thinking homes are getting more and more expensive. And so I think that just makes an argument for when is the best time to buy? Yesterday, but we can't do yesterday, so let's do today.
Yeah.
Let's talk about inventory and supply.
So inventory is at 1.52 million units, which is actually down 0.7% from September, but up almost 11% year over year. We're at a 4.4 month supply of homes at the current sales price. For equilibrium, we're shooting for 6 months. We have not seen 6 months supply in years.
In a long time.
In the Midwest, sales are up 5.3% month over month and just over 2% year over year, with a median price of, I'm going to say 320,000, which is just under 5% year over year.
Matt, who's buying these homes?
So first-time buyers made up 32% of sales in October, which is up from 27% a year ago.
That's a
so
good
that's
sign.
a good sign.
Yep.
Cash sales accounted for 29% of transactions, up from 27 a year ago, and that's been pretty flat for this entire year. It's been averaging 25 to 30% cash sales, because people who have equity, or people like you, Steve, which is deep pockets,
Yes.
which is checks to write.
Absolutely. Just come with the bags of cash to the closing.
Yep, and another good sign is the distress sales, which includes foreclosures and short sales, remained at 2% of the total pot of things. So there is no red flags, even though in certain market areas, such as in Florida, Texas, and California, foreclosures are rising slightly. But us in the Midwest, because we're simple, easygoing, smart, financial people, we're not seeing that at all.
No.
And then median time on market is 34 days, which is up from 29 days a year ago. So time on market going up a little bit
Yep.
nationwide. And Lawrence Yun, our favorite chief economist, said home sales increased in October, even with the government shutdown, due to home buyers taking advantage of lower mortgage rates. So that's where we're at with the U.S. home sales.
And Matt, it's also this little note here that rents are coming down, and that's in some markets. And I think, with the competition is getting out there, maybe there's some more vacancies for various reasons.
Yeah.
And so all of a sudden, people are going to have to be more competitive on the rental front. And so that's exciting for renters.
Anecdotally, I was with a very good friend of mine from Pittsburgh yesterday. He's a home builder, and he was saying that the condo market in downtown Pittsburgh is actually, on a square footage basis, more expensive per square foot in Pittsburgh than it is in downtown Chicago right now.
Wow.
Because the condo market in downtown Chicago has taken a slight hit. If you haven't seen that, there's a glut, and a lot of people are unloading properties at lower prices than they paid.
Matt, and I did see recently, although Chicago's the #1 best big city, I think Pittsburgh was listed as
one of the most affordable.
One of the most affordable
larger cities
larger
out there.
cities.
Quality of life, lots of opportunity. Pittsburgh's a lovely city.
Well, Matt, and more than likely, I don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but people are moving out of Pittsburgh because they just lost to the Bears.
I mean, it's a tough sell
you don't
to
even.
stay.
You're moving to Chicago thinking, hey, I want to go with a winning team. But Matt, speaking of Chicago, let's go to the Chicago metro area.
So looking at October month over month as well as year over year, the operative term is flat. So closed sales, it's year over year just a 2% positive change. But if you look at the numbers, it's 150 more units year over year.
So very much
very
like
flat.
last year, Matt.
Median sales price, once again, is higher than ever, almost $370,000 from $350 a year ago. Inventory of homes is down almost 7%. So in certain parts of the country, there's inventory being added on a daily basis. Not the case here in the Chicago marketplace, where inventory is actually down year over year, which is causing prices to accelerate.
That's
and
right.
we've talked about so many people delisting because they don't get the price that they're looking for and don't need to move. And then days on market is flat year over year, 24 and 24.
Matt, let's shift to Wisconsin, the land of the cheese.
Wisconsin, once again, all positive numbers for the most part. Home sales is up 3.4% year over year, but that's like 200 units. Statewide listings for the state of Wisconsin are up, but that's by 400 units, 1.7%. And then the median home price year over year is up almost 7%. So for October, $331,500, which is about $20,000 more than last year. And then inventory actually is lower year over year. So we're at 3.9 months inventory this time period versus 4 last year.
So the Wisconsin market is still strong, Matt. Matt, let's get into the other news. Are there any highlights here?
So for those of us that live in Cook County, your tax bills have arrived, so don't forget to pay them.
Yes.
It's about 2 months behind. So
But they want their money now, Matt.
they want it by December 15th.
Okay.
You're not in Cook County,
No,
correct?
I'm not. Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Do we want to do a little recap of
The cash flow conference,
yeah.
Matt?
So the cash flow conference, did you go all 3 days?
I did go all 3 days.
That's very good. So the cash flow conference, which is the Andrew Holmes event that they do 2 to 3 times per year. I mean, how many people they had there? 500-600 people at least?
Yes, and many, probably 1,000 if you include the online guests.
So we are a trusted partner with Andrew Holmes and his team on the title side of business. And so we were guests, and many of us on our team were able to participate on the cash flow conference. And I thought it was the part that I was able to attend was outstanding, showing you how to find listings that were in the MLS as well as off MLS listings and things to look for with financing. I know they did a bus tour of some of the investment properties that are out there that are currently as part of their network. And on the day 3, I think they brought it all together.
They did.
With how to find it, finance it, and then hold it and protect yourself with insurance, trusts, wills, probate.
Yeah, Matt, and what I really liked about the conference is that every single serious-minded investor had the opportunity to leave with a plan of how they can get involved and really achieve their first investment property. The whole concept is, 257.
Right.
Build your portfolio, pay it off within 7 years, and build your real estate equity and net worth.
Yes.
Very good.
Very cool.
Yeah, and Matt, we have a big Bears win. I alluded to it, but we did not linger on it long enough. We're 8-3 now. We're alone at the top of the NFC North.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
And dare I say, Matt, we're a legit team.
Legit. And for the first time in many years, I was in person and went to the Bears game. So thank you, Marty.
So the energy was real, Matt.
Energy was real. I was saying to Steve earlier, about 20% of the stadium were Pittsburgh fans with their stupid, terrible towels, which I said to my colleagues from Pittsburgh. I said, why do you guys have these terrible towels? But they love them for some reason.
Yes.
It's part of their DNA. And I have no problem with Pittsburgh. They're a great franchise, historical franchise. Everybody was getting along lovely in the stadium. I said to the young man next to me who was from Pittsburgh, I said, we have no animosity towards Pittsburgh.
Right.
We're not really a rivalry. We never play you guys.
Good, hard work in town.
Right, we never play you guys. You guys were respectful. So the fans there, hopefully everybody enjoyed themselves, but it was another nail-biter, cardiac win for the Bears.
Man, and it's a lot easier to leave with your terrible towel when you lost.
Exactly.
Now, if they would have won, it might have been flipped the script. I don't think so. But anyway, congrats to the Bears. We play Philadelphia Friday, Matt.
And Philadelphia they're ready for, they lost.
Ripe for the picking, Matt.
They are ripe for the picking. So I'm bullish on the Bears. Why not?
Absolutely.
So I stand corrected on my win total. They've already exceeded the win total.
Yes.
I think I said at the beginning of the year. I don't know if I said 7 or 8 wins. But nothing but good things ahead, man. They just keep winning these nail biters. So.
Yep, we have 6 games, Matt, including 2 with Green Bay. Yeah. Should be exciting. So listen, we wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving.
Yes.
We have a lot to be thankful for in this country and in the world, Matt.
Yeah, so grateful for you guys. Enjoy this week. As Steve said, catch up on your market trends and People Not Titles past episodes.
Absolutely.
When you get bored, you see your family enough. You're going to get bored with them.
Yes.
Take your second plate of turkey and go to the computer and check us out.
Absolutely. People Not Titles podcast, the Market Trends edition for November 24th, 2025, signing off. Hey, thanks for listening to the People Not Titles podcast. We are proudly sponsored by Land Trust Title Services. If you enjoyed the podcast, please hit the like button, please subscribe, and we'd love it if you'd share our podcast with your friends. Thanks a lot.